Okay, so next session is about managing client relationships for long term success. Hey, hi. Oh my God,
Hey,
you both
Himani.
are together.
Yes, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, good, good. We're very
Awesome.
excited to be here.
Yes, absolutely. And it is something that, to be very honest, Chris, your tips have worked out really amazing. So thanks for that. Seriously.
Very good, very good.
Awesome. So I'll take a moment to introduce you guys to the beautiful audience that we have today. So, it's something that we now have Chris Raulf, an international AI and SEO expert, founder and president at Boulder SEO Marketing, and Daniel Burns, SEO design and CRO expert at Boulder SEO Marketing. And this duo is going to, rock the stage, bring fire, and, share some amazing insights. So stay tuned, guys, and welcome both of you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think this will be a very interesting session. Should we get into it right away? Let me go full screen here. All right, again, my name is Chris. I'm the founder of Boulder SEO Marketing. I'm originally from Switzerland, moved to Colorado a long time ago. I love it here. I speak globally about AI and SEO. Enough about me. Daniel, who are you?
Yes, my name is Daniel. I'm originally from Brazil. My past life, I used to run, own, and manage a website design agency in Los Angeles for about 20 years. So a lot of what I bring to the table is really how to manage and how to keep clients. And that's a lot of what we're going to be talking about today.
All right, enough about us. So in a perfect world, and by the way, man, I watched the entire conference so far today. Amazing presentations. So we're going to build on what already has been presented. All right, so in a perfect world, right, it's easy to acquire customers. It's easy to keep them. It's easy to always keep them happy. That is not the case. If you guys already have started your agency, you're in the middle, you're growing, it is really hard. So this is what we're going to talk about today, Daniel. So there are three big issues we're trying to solve. What are those, Daniel?
Yeah, and the biggest issues when trying to keep clients happy is number one, when closing deals, making sure that you're closing the right deals and closing them correctly. Number two, big issue that we see is onboarding. A lot of clients get lost when onboarding a client. We're going to talk about that. And then once they're onboarded and they're on the deck and we're working with them, how do you keep clients for years to come? Those are usually the three buckets of where we see the most issues. And those are the ones that we're going to be talking about and focusing on today.
All right, let's get into it. So we have a pretty packed agenda, not a lot of time, but this is basically what we're gonna try to cover in today's presentation. Hopefully at the end, we'll have a little bit of time for questions, but you're always welcome to reach out to us if you have any other questions. So I want to give a brief overview who we are, how we have evolved since I started this company back in 2009, how we're now organized. We're still a boutique agency. I want to stay a boutique agency. I don't need to be the Walmart of SEO agencies. So I want to quickly present to you how we have evolved as a company. So 2009, I had it with corporate America. I read my horoscope. It said, if you don't make a change today, you'll regret it forever. I don't believe in that stuff, but I took a shower. I thought about it, walked out and wrote my letter of resignation. Bit scary. I really didn't have a plan B, so it was like all in. I think if you want to, do this the right way, you need to go all in. Like no regrets. If you fail, you fail. You're not going to implode or explode. Give it a try, right? If you're thinking about this. Then look at this, Jerry, a first customer. He is still with us 14 years later. That's me 14 years ago at a Halloween party. So I'm excited, right, that we still have our first dollar, our first client still with us. In April, shortly after I launched the business, acquired the first international big customer, had to hire people, right? And then it was pretty smooth sailing. I kept the agency small, overseeable for about 4 or 5 years. Got remarried, sold the book of business. I was the housewife. My wife worked every day in Denver, long commute, wasn't home, left early. I had to shuttle 5 kids to and from work. I had to do the cooking and cleaning. Man, that was hard work. So my hat off to, housekeepers out there, way harder than running an agency. So basically, I sold my book of business. I just focused on lead gen and selling leads to other agencies. Living the dream. I worked 2 hours a day, made a lot of money. So if you're not cut out to run an agency, maybe that's the best way for you to make a living, right? Then Daniel, we met in August 2020, decided to team up and restart the business basically from zero to hero. We've been doing this for nearly 3 years now. It's going really well. We're approaching the next phase of this business where we're going to grow it rapidly. In June of 2021, our website got hit by a core algorithm update. We lost basically all of our organic search traffic. We invented something that we call micro SEO strategies. It's a game changer. It is a true differentiator that we bring to the table. If you're an agency, if you want to start an agency, find something that differentiates you from other agencies out there. And then, June 2023, we're still having fun, ready for the next phase of growth. If you want to learn more about micro SEO strategies, we did a webinar for SE ranking, I think a year or something ago. Here's the link to this webinar. I definitely recommend checking it out. Real briefly, this is now how we're organized. It's critically important that you think about the structure of your company if you get ready to grow it. I'm the founder, like the visionary, the big thinker. I speak at conferences. I do consultative selling. I'm in charge of marketing, speaking, training, keep the team on their toes. We just hired a solutions advisor, a salesperson. I'm way too busy dealing with all the leads that we're getting through organic search. And then we also have a marketing intern that's helping me, with all the marketing activities. Daniel, how is your team organized?
Yeah, so essentially Chris, does the vision and brings in the business. And then my job is to manage the team who's going to actually deliver on this. So we have a team starting off with a strategist, and below the strategist, we have, and you can go ahead and, bring out the other ones as well. The account management who manages account team and project coordinators. We have a head of content development. And then below that, we have specialty SEO professionals that do a lot of the different things. So one of the things that we're not going to talk about today, because a lot of other presentations were really good about talking about processes and managing the team. That in terms of, managing client relationships is probably as important as a lot of the things that we're going to talk about today. But one thing to keep in mind as you grow the business, having a good process documented in place. So everyone knows exactly what they're doing and what their job description is and what is expected from them is really important when you start dealing with a team of this size and when you plan on growing that team.
Awesome. All right, so I'm going to go through this relatively fast. I think it's sort of like a recap of what we already heard here today. So you have to get clients. There's no company without clients. So either, primarily do inbound or outbound. We primarily focus on inbound. We know how to do SEO. I'm not a fan of outbound, right? So you can do, in terms of inbound, organic search, those are the best leads. PPC, it's okay. They're not as well educated as people that find you organically. Outbound sucks, in my opinion. It has to be hyper targeted. If you do it, very targeted mailings, etc. Cold calling, I've been there, done it. I don't want to do it ever again. But you have to think about how you're going to get those clients, right? And there were already presentations that spoke about that. Speed to lead, critically important. When you get a lead, in this case through organic search, somebody reached out to us here June 1st, 8:30 a.m. Hey, this is what we're looking for. I get those leads. I respond right away with a personalized email. 6 minutes later, I either call them or I send them an email. Hey, I'm Chris, I'm the founder. And then here, set up a call with me or give me a call. And then if you find the time, fill out this form. So a lot of really good information that will give me more ammunition in the initial conversation to hopefully close that deal. Then, all right, first date. So we're talking gain trust, get on the same level with the person on the other line. Do not overpromise. There's no need to lie. You're gonna get your production team into trouble this way. No sales pitch. I'm an educator. I teach at universities. I speak globally. So I do an consultative approach, and then I always try to figure out, are they actually a good fit for BSM? If they're not, we're not going to take them on. It's just going to be a nightmare down the road. Find out if they have money to pay for your services. Second date, hey, let's create a customized proposal, 6-month roadmap. Involve the SEO strategist or Daniel to be part of that call where it's getting to get serious. Then this will make onboarding very easy and seamless. And then make it clear, I will not be involved all the time. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to do anything. So I already tell them, hey, you're not going to see me on a regular basis, but I'm here. You're welcome to reach out if there's anything crazy that you need to discuss with me. Then this is where Daniel and the team comes in, deal with contract, legal stuff, onboarding. I usually attend the kickoff meeting, the handoff meeting, but then it's time to let go, let the BSM production team take over. I'll attend the re-strategy meetings. Daniel, you'll talk about that. Mm-hmm. And then be here, to support the team for high-level issues. Woo! All right, all yours, Daniel.
Perfect. So this is when essentially the rubber now meets the road, right? And one of the reasons that for us, this part is so important. And again, the title of the presentation here is Managing Client Relationships. And the reason we talked about sales is because the way that we bring people in sets the foundation for that client relationship. So the things that Chris say during the sales process, the things that he's promising that our team is going to do, how that onboarding happens, sets the foundation for how well we're going to be able to have a relationship with that client. So we've been doing this for a very long time, between Chris and I together, 40, 50 years of experience. And everything that we're going to be teaching you today is really based on trial and error, things that we've done, or I have personally done incorrectly for many years. And we've learned the hard way that these are probably the biggest sticking points and probably the biggest solutions that we've implemented into the business to be able to avoid these issues from happening, and then keeping that client relationship on a good note, making sure that client onboarding is very smooth. And then once they're onboarded, keeping clients with us for years. I mean, Gary's been with us for 14 years. That's amazing. And, the majority of our clients are with us for 2-3 years, which I think is a really, really, really awesome.
And by the way, Jerry still doesn't know what we do. Yes. Like, he's a machinist. He has a machine shop. When we started to work together, he was nearly going out of business. And I'm like, Jerry, you can't have a dark website with dark fonts. That's not going to work. Let's redo the website, right? And then, so I think now he owns 2 buildings, millions of dollars of machinery, but still he has no idea what we're doing. He thinks I'm working for Google.
Yeah.
But this is what we want, right? Like, they don't need to worry about us. They just need to see it as working.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So the way that we kind of formatted the second part of this presentation is really putting together 6 tips. And these are hopefully tips that, any agency can take and implement into their process right away. And these are tips that for us have been true game changers over the years. So the first one, and probably one of the big ones, is onboarding. And why is onboarding such a issue? Well, I'll explain. The way that we used to do onboarding for many years, and then probably a lot of you guys are doing onboarding. Sales is talking to a client, and obviously the client is very happy at that point because they are going to close with you, right? Either they talk to a lot of different people, or with, what happens with Chris, they've seen a webinar, they knew that he's the expert, they know that they're working with the best of the best when working with Chris. But then Chris sells it, an agreement is signed, and then he hands it over to the project manager. And a lot of times, the way we used to do it in the past is we used to have a manila folder. We'd put a service agreement in there that's signed and give it to the project manager and say, here you go, run with it. The client goes, wait a second, why am I not working with Chris anymore? This is not cool. I wanted to work with Chris. So that transition from a sales to the project manager, if not done correctly, ends up in the client not being very happy. All of a sudden working with sometimes a project manager that doesn't have a fifth of the experience and then the educational tone of voice, all of that, excitement that they were feeling in the beginning, all of a sudden goes down the drain. We've seen this happen over and over. A lot of agency will have a strategist involved, but we see the same issue. Sales, they're super excited. They want to sign. Let's start working. But then they bring in the strategist, and the person that did the sales kind of hands it off to the strategist. Now they're working with somebody new. That's the first kind of handoff. And then the strategist puts together a strategy, and then they hand it over to the project manager. And then within a couple of weeks, another handover, and then they're working with somebody else. And by the time this happens, it's the third person. There's been things that have been missed and communicated over 3 different, handoffs. A lot of things get lost in the mixture. And they're saying, where is Chris? Why am I working with, an entry level project manager a lot of times when, I was talking to the expert in the industry? This happens over and over. So what we've done is we've created something, and I called it layered onboarding transition. How does that work? Well, Chris is there talking to, a prospect. The prospect is very happy. Remember that Chris said that he's got 3 meetings. He's got the first meeting where he's on his own, and he's really understanding if this is going to be a good client. And if it is a good client, then he's going to say, okay, well, let's have a second meeting. And I'm going to bring in not only my strategist, but I'm going to collect some information from you, which is a questionnaire. We're going to look at Search Console so we can have a better and more educated, conversation about this. So on that second meeting, which I'm the strategist for most of these projects, will come in. And then for meeting 2 and meeting 3, I'm going to be participating in these meetings, talking in these meetings as well, and interacting with the client. So by the time the agreement is signed and Chris makes very clear that he's no longer going to be there, I have been speaking to that person for about 2-3 weeks already. So they feel very confident that they're talking to somebody else already, and they're not just going to be handed off to somebody else. The other thing that happens at this point, the service agreement is signed. I've been working with him for a while. Chris says, you're in good hands. Daniel will take care of this for you now. I introduce the project manager at this point. You'll see that I'm going to onboard this client for the next 2 to 3 weeks, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But for 2 to 3 weeks, the project manager is also part of this communication. They're not going to be doing much at this point. They're going to be there in meetings. They're going to be in communications. Why? Because we want this client to see that the project manager is already there, already part of the activities, already part of everything. Nothing is getting lost through the cracks. So by the time I officially get this off my plate and hand it over to the project manager, there is very good happiness in terms of the client understanding that this was a very congruent and very smooth onboarding process where he simply just didn't get offboarded from somebody to somebody else, completely new, that didn't know what the project, was about, and has to do that discovery every time. So this is a process, a transitional onboarding process that works really, really, really well for us today. Yes, it requires a little bit more time investment from the strategist and the project management to add that extra time at the tail end of these other activities, but it's worth the investment. So perfect. Tip number 2, the meeting cadence, 3 meetings in 2 weeks. Let me talk to you about what that is. So again, communication cadence. In the beginning, the client is very excited. And as we all know, sales, if somebody calls you, Chris was saying speed to lead, right? If a client or a prospect calls, you call them right away. If they send an email, you send an email right away. What happens is a lot of times, and every agency is guilty of that, the minute the agreement is signed, we're like, whoo, we got them on board. we can relax a little bit. And then things tend to slow down a little bit. And that is a huge issue. And the huge issue is because from the client perspective, they're like, whoa, wait a second. Everything was so fast and everything was so exciting. And one of the reasons I closed with them is because they got back to me so quickly and so forth. We've seen clients become upset with the fact that all of a sudden it takes 2-3 days to get back to them. Some things that were happening, the energy level isn't there anymore. So it's important that the minute that the sales stops and the onboarding and the work continues or starts, not only the energy level, but the educational tone of the communication is maintained the same, but it actually increases and becomes more exciting. Why? Because we want our clients to say, you know what, working with Chris was awesome, but working with the rest of the team is even better, right? Everything that we do needs to be that with that in mind. And then the other thing is you want to get through the strategy pretty fast and then start working on SEO. Again, something that we've been very guilty of doing is we say, okay, now we have the client. Let us really sit down and spend some time doing strategy. And a lot of times because of different variables, sometimes because the client takes long for us to, or takes long to get back to us, or because there's so much to look at, a strategy will go into month 1, month 2. Sometimes we're even getting into the end of month 2. And then the client's like, when are we actually going to start the SEO work, right? So doing strategy fast and hitting the ground running with actual deliverables, very important to keep the client very motivated. So how do we do our meetings when we close the client? Chris goes there and he signs the agreement. So I know at that point that the first month has started right there. The clock is ticking. So immediately the first day, the minute the agreement is signed, I pick up the phone and I call the client and I say, hey, let us set up the initial kickoff meeting. This kickoff meeting is very important because at this point, this is when I bring the project manager in. I'm like, hey, this is going to be your project manager. We're very excited to work with you. By the way, over the next 2-3 weeks, these are the things that we're going to be doing. This is what I need from you. I make sure that they know that we're on top of it. And then I say on this initial meeting, by the way, over the next 2 weeks, I need to set up 2 more meetings. Meeting number 2, in 1 week, I want to review the first round of our strategy recommendations. And after that, we want to review the final strategy, which is the day that we're going to get your okay and actually hit the ground running. So when we get your okay on this, by week 2, we're actually going to hit the ground running and start doing some implementations. So immediately when the client agrees that to that service agreement and signs off, we get on the phone, we get 3 meetings within 2 weeks, and we have a very fast cadence to make sure that we not only have a really good strategy in place, but that it's finalized, approved, and we're actually implementing it by week 2. I can't tell you how important this is to be part of your process. This needs to be a priority. If you have other things that are happening within the agency, when a new client comes in, making sure that you get these 2 weeks done as a priority to make sure that the project manager has what they need to start implementing it sets the foundation for a great client relationship for years to come. So tip number 3, create a truly custom strategy. And the way I have truly here is because, again, looking back at the way that I used to do SEO 10 years ago, it was the old formula of the, package 1, 2, 3. And package 1 is, you're going to get 3 blog posts, 10 links, and, 2 of these. And then you would essentially do that, right? Nowadays, number 1, that doesn't work. Number 2, that's not what the clients want. Number 3, that's not what Chris is selling them on, right? Because what we're selling them is on a really, truly custom strategy. So how do we do our custom strategy? Well, information is power. We collect throughout this whole process a lot of information, right? Number 1, there's a client questionnaire. That's a really in-depth client questionnaire. We actually explain to our clients that, yes, we apologize for the length of this, but it is extremely important in a lot of different ways that we need all of this information. We review the sales notes. We look at the kickoff meeting notes from the first meeting. We look at Google Search Console, GA. We look at the current rankings, the tech reviews. We have all of this information in place. And then we're going to prepare some recommendations to make in meeting 2. Now, a note here. it is our job, it is Chris's job, and specifically my job as the digital strategist, to tell things to the client that he doesn't know. Specifically, what are the things that he needs based on his goals for the business, but basically where his website is in terms of what we can actually and realistically accomplish. So when we have that second meeting, I don't want to tell the client, say, yes, you hired us to do SEO, so we're going to do SEO and increase your rankings. He knows that already. My job is to say, look, we've uncovered all of these things during the strategy. And based on this information, these are the things that we're going to recommend because these are the things that are going to give you the best result. I want from my meeting number 2 with the client for him to say, wow, these guys actually put some time into it and really came up with some really jewels that I had no idea and I didn't hear about before. Again, the reason I'm saying this is because these are the things that are going to set that foundational trust between the client and the team that they're working with, really setting the, again, the foundation for the client relationship for years to come.
And we got about 10 minutes, so we have a little bit of time for questions.
So I will move forward here, and I think we're getting close to the end. So we do the roadmap, right? So the roadmap is we have the meeting with the client. He says, perfect, this is great. So I'm going to create a client roadmap. I'm going to create the Basecamp deliverables, and then we're going to have the third meeting with the client, and then this can hand it off to the project manager. So what does the roadmap look like? Well, here, let me show you ours, what it looks like. So we have this template, which is going to be the same template for the reporting. And I'll explain why that reporting is at the end. But we tell the client, hey, over the next 3 months, and we do 3-month sprints, we are going to do these 14 deliverables. Are you okay with this? Yes. So together with the client, we know that this is exactly what we're going to deliver in 3 months. And for our team,
they basically, go back to the slide. This is now a summary, right, of everything that was communicated, that was discussed. So it's like it's distilled version of like, hey, this is what we're going to propose. Like, this is what we're actually going to do now.
Exactly. This is exactly what we're going to deliver, to the client over the next 3 months. And this, we use Basecamp. I know we were talking about some other project management systems. So Basecamp is where we actually get the actual tasks that our team needs to implement to make this happen. And this is, the client also sees this as well. So now we're organized. This has been handed off to the client, and the project manager is now fully in charge of running with this. Onboarding is done. So what do we do next? This one here is re-strategize periodically. Again, old school, rinse and repeat doesn't work. If you're going to do the same thing every month, it's going to get to a point where the client's going to be, is this really working? What we do is we do 3-month sprints. So in the beginning, in our onboarding, we do a strategy, and we do a 3-month strategy. We implement and deliver all of that in 3 months. And at the end of 3 months, they've been working with the project manager. The strategist, myself, will come in and redo a strategy for the next 3 months. The reason this is important is because things change so much. And we want to make sure that we're always focusing on the most important stuff and keeping the account fresh. The other reason this is so important is because instead of just working with the project managers for years to come, they actually get to see the strategist or sometimes the owner come back and interact with the client every 3 months. So they get a feeling that they're actually not working just with the project manager, but with everybody in the agency.
And I think what's critically important, like if you have local clients, like oftentimes and nowadays, everything is through a computer. You don't meet in person anymore. Get together for the re-strategy meeting, even go for a happy hour, have a drink together, take it to a different level. It makes such a huge difference.
Yeah, anytime we have a local client, we make an effort of trying to go and meet with them in person. So the re-strategy, 3-month sprints every time, again, it's been a game changer for us. This one, if from the 6 tips, if I have to say, take 1 tip away, is the communication pulse. And this is one where my team of project managers always, I get a little pushback, but I have to say it works wonders. What this is I tell my team that we need to send at least 1 daily update to every client. Yes, every client will get something from us. It's either an email or a Loom video or an update on a project or a question or this. Why? Because over communication works. there's one thing that I tell my team that I never ever want to hear, which is a client sending an email saying, "Can you please give me an update on my project?" Over communication means the client understands that the team is busy, the team is working, and he is always up to date in terms of everything that's going on, right? One of the things that creates really customer insatisfaction or unhappiness is not knowing what's happening. So I've always told my team saying, do the email pulses. And if any client ever complains of over communication, please slow down, let me know. And we've never heard that before.
So it's actually interesting when I do the initial call with potential customers, I ask them, hey, are you able to share a report, a monthly report that you get from your current agency, or like what does communication look like? It's usually a blank stare. Shockingly, a lot of agencies, they don't provide reports, they don't communicate with their clients. I'm like, wow, you're going to be in for like a very pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And then the last thing, which is really cool about the pulse, is because it encourages the project manager to review every day, every client, every task for that client, and communicate with the client. So it's just a natural way to really stay on top of projects and making sure the clients always know what's going on. Here is essentially the template that we use, right? So every month I print this out. Some of our project managers use this digitally, others actually print it out like myself. And then we just make sure that every day, boop, we send out a little smoke signal to our clients, and they love that. Last but not least, especially because I think our next speaker is going to be talking about reporting, and reporting can be sliced and diced in 100 different ways. But the reason that I wanted to talk about reporting here, and the reason that it is so important for client retention, is because we bring in and incorporate one very important thing in here. So again, remember the roadmap? It's the same template. And every time at the end of every month, when a client is looking at the metrics and what did we achieve, we always want to start off with number one, the roadmap. What is it that we're working towards? What is our North Star? These are in this case, 14 different big deliverables that we're going to do over these 3 months. So it's always going back to that. And then remember that I showed you our internal task list. We share that very clearly with the client as well, saying, hey, we're kind of halfway through that 3-mark roadmap. We've done about 50%. We're on schedule. These things are still kind of in the backlog. So he gets a very clear communication at our back end. And most importantly, then we go through an executive summary, really highlighting the things that are, extremely important about the account. This is, I think, probably the most important page of the report, because this is where our project managers are taking time to really tell the client, hey, if you only have a minute to look at this report, what are the things that you need to understand that we have, a handle on your project? And last but not least, these are the things that we completed last month. These are the things that we're going to be working on in the next month. And during that conversation with the client, we say, is this good? Do you want to adjust this? Is there anything that we need to add? Is there something happening with the business? So together with the client on a 30-day cycle, we are getting together and making sure that not only are they really happy with the past 30 days, but they're really on board with all of the things that we're going to be doing for the next 30 days, but keeping in mind that North Star of the 3-month deliverable.
And I think a great analogy is probably like, if you're in a personal relationship and you don't communicate with your partner, there's something wrong, right? And if you tell them that you're going to do things and you're not going to do it, that relationship is going to end.
Absolutely.
Very similar. Like think about, this way.
Yeah. So, running an agency is not easy. Keeping clients happy for years to come is not easy. There's so many different variables and things that you have to keep in mind. But in our experience, I think all 6 of those things are really good pieces of advice that we've implemented in our own business, and they've shown to be extremely successful.
Woo! Over. Well done. All right.
My God, that was beyond words. I mean, you both were, it was looking like that, I'm actually having an interaction, even if not speaking. So that was brilliant, guys. I mean, you both were having so involved in the conversation. And of course there were so many frameworks, the processes, and the checklist, and that I love the one where you have showcased that it looks like a book where you have table of contents, and then you have certain things noted down as the list of things that we are going to do for the entire month, right? So that was really amazing. So thank you so much, both of you, because it actually seemed like a lot of effort, to be very honest. So yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work, right? And luckily, we made a lot of mistakes early on when we got together, but we learned. Luckily, we made a lot of mistakes, but we learned from these mistakes. And now we're like, nearly 3 years into this relationship, we grow, like rebuilding the agency. I think we're actually now ready for growth, right? We have a great process. We got communication under control. We hired somebody to help me with sales. Somebody helped me with marketing. So I loved Greg's presentation before. Man, I took away so many insights, and I'm gonna make Daniel watch it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think all the presentations here, they're really good fit for each other. So hopefully we were able to share some cool insights here, and maybe even if there are any questions, we'd love to answer some questions.
Yes, absolutely. We have few. So I'll take the one from Jamar. How do you balance the demands and requests of multiple clients and prioritize your workload? So I believe I understand that sometimes you've planned something, and then the client comes up with their special requirements, which hinders the balance that we have created. That okay, we have the timeline to wrap up some things, right? So how do you balance?
I'll start with, so I try to set the expectations when I initially talk with the leads, right? I'm like, hey, this is how it's going to be when you work with us. You're not going to, please don't bombard us like on a daily basis with all these crazy requests. It's like, it's a long-term strategy that we're going to implement for you. Usually we come up with like at least a 3 to 6 month plan. And then we're going to try to stick to that, right? It's going to kill the project if a client feels they need to bombard you with all the time with new requests. It has happened, and sadly we had to part ways because it's not a good fit, right? Daniel, how do you deal with?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the beauty of the 3 month sprints, right? Because a 3 month sprint means, hey, something came up. Can we add that to our next sprint? If it's something that we can wait, it's not going to get put on the back burner. We know that we can already talk about how we're going to implement this in the next sprint. If it's something that is urgent, as my website broke and we need to jump on it, well, then we have to make decisions of let's make changes to our current flow and do emergency work. But for the most part, everything that gets asked 90% of the time is something that can wait and be part of the next sprint. And that's why those 3 months is such a sweet spot, is because we can get all of this done, but then re-strategize and implement stuff that's important for us, but important for the client as well. So they always get their needs met and included in future strategies.
And basically, the more proactive we are, the less reactive we have to be, right? It's all about setting expectations, clear communication, a long-term plan. It's going to take the craziness out of the operation here.
Yeah. And it's also learning how to say no to the client. Yeah. It's important, because if you get into a habit of always saying yes, 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 more demands are going to come. And that's eventually going to get you in a position where you're not going to be able to deliver on what's promised. And that's going to ruin the client relationship. So it's important that you set the foundation of what you can and can't do and very clearly communicate your limitations to make sure that we can stay on schedule.
Right, absolutely. I guess this is something that it is all about that how we are going to tell them, as you said, that what we can and what we can't, and it is something that sometimes they have huge demands on our other marketing plans have this all of these things. We need to push all of these things lives, and sometimes it even hampers what we are doing into. But it is it is after all we have to identify whether we can say yes or no.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, we're the ones that are driving the SEO car, right? Exactly. And the client is our passenger. We want to make sure that this is a safe drive and a safe ride for all of us, and that we're actually going to get to our destination. So,
right. Absolutely. Absolutely. No, that completely makes sense. Okay. Now, next question from Anthony. What's the best way of fostering trust and loyalty with your clients and encouraging referrals and testimonials?
I mean, it's proof in the pudding, right? So they see me talk, they heard about me, attend one of our trainings, whatever. They're like super excited, but then it really comes down to what these guys are doing in production, right? They're like backing up what I'm telling these new clients, right? If this doesn't happen, then my reputation will sink, which is terrible. So again, luckily we learned from mistakes. So we really fine-tuned that process, but it's all about delivering upon what I'm telling our clients, these prospects that I'm talking to, what is going to happen. If this doesn't happen, it's terrible, right? If they do what I'm telling our new customer, what we're going to do, this naturally results into trust, referrals, etc. So it's all about that connection between, sales, pre-sales, and then production, and then them actually doing what I'm telling the clients that we're going to do.
Yeah, and on that note, if we as an agency were able to keep a client on board for 2 years, it means two things. It means the client is really happy, and it means the client is seeing a return on their investment, right? If we
Right.
focus on doing that, referrals and word of mouth referrals, it's a byproduct, right? We don't need to work on doing those things. We need to work on making sure that our clients are happy. Referrals are just going to happen.
It's just going to follow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we don't worry about that. We just worry about, let's keep the client happy.
Right. No, that is something that is the key to our success, right? If our clients are happy, after all, we are going to be happy and grow our, business.
Exactly.
Awesome. Great. Then it was really wonderful having you, Chris and Daniel. It was really, great learning. And I'm sure all of, the audiences have thoroughly loved your session.
Cool. Thank you so much, Himani. Thank you for hosting this. Elena for organizing it. I'm excited to watch the next sessions.
Absolutely. See you around there.
Bye. Bye, everybody. Bye.